Am I audible? Okay, so in today's session, we are going to learn about the reading module, and in the reading module, we are going to cover specific type of question, which is the multiple choice of questions. How do we exactly understand these kinds of questions? What can be done? What approach to take in order to solve these kinds of questions? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what kinds of approach shall we take in order to do such kind of questions? All of that will be discussed in today's session. So let us quickly have an overview. What are we going to learn today? The first is the introduction. Then we have some strategies that we have to keep in mind, some key tips, and structural and some model answer as well. So let's start. So when we talk about the introduction to multiple choice of questions, this in this particular kind of questions, you will be required to read a passage and find out a specific information and choose the correct answer from that set of options given. Sometimes you will get to choose two options out of six, and sometimes when there are four options, you have to choose only one. And this type of question is commonly associated with both IELTS academics and general training. Now, each question will have some list of options. There are usually three or four, but at times you also have six options, and you need to select the correct answer based upon the information provided in the passage. Now, answer choices can be of certain ways. The first one could be one correct answer that directly corresponds to information in the passage. That means out of four, you just have to select one option that matches with the information given in the passage. That could be the one kind. The other kind is two or more correct distractor options may seem plausible but are not supported by the passage. Now, sometimes what happens is you might feel that one or two options are very closely linked with the correct answer, but they are nothing but distractors. So, if you will read closely, you will be able to find out some discrepancies, and in that way, you will be able to tell that okay, fine, half of the information is correct, but the rest half is not is incoherent, is something that does not align with the passage or the question. So, this is also another kind of multiple choice question that comes in the passage. Sometimes you might find two options are really like very close match, they might both be the correct answer, but if you will look closely, if you will read closely, you will be able to draw out certain again the discrepancy, and you will be able to mark out the or you will be able to chalk out the incorrect answer. The next is there are sometimes there may be multiple answers correct, but you need to select all that applies. So you might feel that all of the answers are correct, but again the thing is that if you read the keyword, if you understand the overall perspective of the question, and then you read the paragraph, you will be able to chalk out the different or the incorrect answers, and you will be able to mark out the correct one. So these are certain kinds of ways in which the multiple choice questions options come, and this is the way in which you are able to segregate the wrong answers from the right one and then mark the correct answer. Now see, there are two ways in which the instructions are given. The first one, if you look closely, says choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. And in the next one, it says choose two letters A to G. That means that out of, if you look at the extreme left information, it says choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. It means that you have to choose out of four, you have to choose only one answer which is going to be correct. On the right hand side, however, if you look, it says choose two letters, which means from A to G you have multiple options, and out of these options you have to choose two letters, which is going to be correct. So depending upon the instruction, you will have to see which answer like fits perfectly. If there are four options, most probably the correct answer would be one. But if there are six options, you will have to choose two. Sometimes you even have to like there's going to be five or to six options, and you have to correct three or four options as correct. So again, what I'm trying to say is it's very important that you read the options and read the instructions as well and follow through the instruction. In that way, you will be able to mark the correct answer. So if it is given in the option and in the instruction that out of these many options you have to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if until and unless you read how many answers can you select, you will not be able to get the correct answer. So it's better that always read the instruction so you are aware of exactly what needs to be done. Okay. Now, when we talk about some key tips to help you effectively solve multiple choice questions, the first is you need to understand the instruction. You need to read the instructions very carefully for each of the MCQs, because the instructions, they also differ. Sometimes they would want you to read and mark only 2 options as correct. Sometimes they would want you to mark 4 as correct. So the information, it differs, and that is the reason why you also have to read the instruction so that you know, that you understand whether you need to choose one correct answer, multiple answers, or select the correct letter corresponding to the answer. The next one is preview the question. What you can do is you can quickly skim through questions before you start reading the passage, so you again have a fair share of idea what needs to be done, and you will also be able to understand what exactly are you looking in the passage. So this gives you prior knowledge, and this will help you to get the answers correct. The next one is skim the passage. You need to spend a couple of minutes skimming through the passage to get a general understanding of the passage, and then once you have an idea of the headings, subheadings, topic, sentences, formatting features, what you can do is then you can just start marking the answers. You can mark the keywords, you can circle the numbers and all of that, and in this way you have a very coherent set of information. So first is to read the question, next is to skim through the passage. While skimming, if you come across any factual information, keep on highlighting it, and then you start reading via scanning method. Again, the next is scan for keywords. This means that when you're answering specific questions, you need to understand the keywords or the phrases mentioned in the question, and you need to locate everything in the relevant section quickly. So these are certain things in which you will be able to find out the answers if you follow along. The next is read the question carefully. Make sure that you are, you understand the question pretty like completely, because sometimes they will have words like never, always, not, etc. So you should be in a position or in a better position to understand the meaning of these words, and because sometimes when we have these qualifiers, it actually changes the meaning of the word, or it changes the meaning of the sentence. So it's very imperative that you understand the question thoroughly before you mark any answer. Now the next one is eliminate the incorrect options. We use the elimination method because once you read the passage, once you have like marked your keywords, you would know what option did you not read at all. So mark those, like you can just strike them off and just focus on the options that seem almost correct, and then you choose the method, and then you mark the answers accordingly. But do not waste a lot of time thinking where to find the piece of information here that I did not read in the passage. If you did not read it in the passage, that means that there is no information of such kind. Just eliminate that option and then try to find out the rest options that feel a more, more logical, more correct. So that is again something. Now, the next is to look for context clues. You have to pay attention to context clues. Again, always, sometimes, these are your context clues, the names, the keywords that are going to be there in the question as well as in the paragraph. These are the context clues, and you need to find out these answers in the passage. The next is beware of distractions or distractors. See, the distractor, as the name suggests, is used to distract the test taker from giving the correct answer. So sometimes a distractor might include half of the information which is correct. Sometimes it might include some information or some words that will change or confuse the meaning of the entire passage. For example, if you look over here, everyone who ate the prawn sandwiches at the party was ill. Most people who ate the prawn sandwiches at the party were ill. Now, if you look at the question, the word everyone and most people, it changes the meaning. Everyone means everybody who ate the prawn sandwich, they fell sick. But when you read the next one, it says most people. So there are some exceptions that there were people who did not feel indisposed and they were fine after eating the sandwich. So you have to pay close attention to the words, because at times the word changes meaning. So is the case with the word produce. If you use it, if you speak produce as produce, it means fresh vegetables and fruits. But if you say produce, it means that to give birth or to make something anew. So again, the way you speak, the way you pronounce the word, it changes the meaning. For example, desert and dessert, the spelling is same, but desert means the sandy area where you find a lot of camels, and dessert is something that you eat after, like, it's the savory, it's the sweet snack that you eat after food. So again, the pronunciation, the words, it changes the meaning. So it's very important for you to be aware of these kinds of words, because it will have the power to change the entire trajectory of your answers. So while reading, read carefully, see what are the words used, what do they mean in general, and then this way you will be able to find out the answer. Now, the answers will be in order. This is something which is very good about the multiple choice questions, because unlike true, false, and not given, here you don't have to keep on looking at where, like, will it come from the same passage? Will I have the information incoherently? For multiple choice questions, the answers, they come in order. So once you find the other first answer, the next one will be somewhere down only. So you don't have to first figure out where the answer has been taken from and then try to find out the answer. You know that if you find one answer, the next one comes after. So that is another thing. The next is, do not leave any blank answers. Of course, when you cannot decide what could be the answer, just make an educated guess, because if you, there is no marking, but if you, like, do not mark anything, again, that would go as a wrong answer. So it's better that you mark something, make an educated guess. Even if it is incorrect, you still tried. Now, deciding, you need to decide between similar answers. For example, you might have you might end up with two very similar looking options, and it would be difficult for you to decide which is the correct answer. So what you can do is, in this case, you can use these couple of tactics that you can use to compare them. The first is to paraphrase each one in your own words. So you read the options and then you try to paraphrase it, try to understand what does it mean. The next is identify distractors, such as qualifying words that give them different meanings. Of course, if you will look closely into the options, you will know that some options actually mean something really different when you read it completely. So you need to identify those distractors. The next is compare keywords and synonyms between them and with the question. So when you will be able to compare certain kinds of options, you will be able to draw conclusions from there. So this is also something that you can do. And when you will practice, when you will use the elimination method, over time it becomes easier for you to really pinpoint what could be an answer. The next is types of incorrect answers. Ek though there is some kind of answer that feel almost like the correct information, almost but not correct. So like words like oh, everyone, most of them, they might draw similarity, but if you read, they will mean something else. So the first one is almost correct information. The next is opposite information. Of course, something which is very contradictory cannot be the answer. So if you will look closely, you will be able to point that out as well. The next is information that is included in the same paragraph as the true answer, but not the relevant. It is not relevant to the question again. So now some kind of information that is very closely linked to the correct answer, but if you really dive deeper, you would see, you would be able to tell the differences apart. So again, that is also a kind of incorrect answer, and you should be able to point it out. The next is information related to the question which is not included in the text. Something which is completely oblivious, something which is not really needed. You will have certain kinds of information that you will have specifically in the question, but you will not be able to find it in the paragraph. So this is also a kind of an incorrect answer, because it leads the test taker to think, where did I read it? Why can I not recall it? The answer is that you haven't read it at all, and that's the reason you cannot find it in the passage. So if you come across any kind of information which seem like it was not there in the paragraph, chances are that it's a kind of a distractor, and you don't really have to scratch your head, or you don't really have to like bang your head against the wall, because that is not going to be found in anywhere in the passage. Now, coming to the strategy to find answers to such kind of questions, there are certain things that you can do. The first is you have to read the instructions carefully. When I say you have to read the instructions carefully, it means that you have to understand what needs to be done. Look out whether you need to find out one option which is correct, or you need to find out many options that are correct, like 2, 3, 4. So the first thing is to understand the options, the instructions. The next is read and underline questions, keywords to pay attention to the synonyms. Again, I told you that there are going to be certain synonyms that will not change. So you should be able to point out these synonyms and you should be able to underline the keywords of the question to be able to like find it out in the passage. The next is try to understand the meaning and distinguish them from paragraphs. So like in one option, if you read there is a specific kind of information, try to read it completely, see if it has any implications, because some words we don't really pay attention to it, but it changes the meaning of the answer. So read it completely so that you understand the overall perspective. And if you see that there are two options that are pretty damn very similar, you may feel that this can be the answer and that can be the answer as well. Ek to try to read it, so you will be able to find out some difference in the words that will change the meaning. And if not, just move on. You can come to it maybe like after you're done with everything, so that you don't get stuck. The next is predict correct answer. Sometimes you will know exactly which answer is correct. So trust your instincts and you can also predict the correct answer. The next one is look for the keywords in the passage. The passages, the questions, each and every question has certain kind of, keyword that will lead you to the correct answer. So make sure that you are able to look out for those keywords. And since the answers, they are in order, half of your battle is already won. You don't really have to figure out from where the information has been taken. If you find out the correct answer for the first one, you know the next one is coming, just below. And then the last one is to write the answer in the answer sheet. See, it may sound very easy when you listen to me telling you about it, but the moment you are going to try it out for yourself, you will really feel that it is not really difficult. When you understand the question, if there are very similar sounding options, try to locate the difference. Try to skim to have an overall perspective. Then you scan to find out exactly from where the information has been taken. And then you eliminate the incorrect or redundant options. And then you are left with some options where you just have to read and find it out. So these are some strategies that you can do. Now you have different kinds of questions like multiple choice with single answer. If you look over here, it says choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. It means like out of 4, you can just choose correct letter. So it says the writer suggests that companies could consider abolishing pay schemes that are based on age, avoiding pay that is based on pieces rate. The next is increasing pay for older workers and equipping older workers with new skills. So there are 4 options that you have to select one from. If you look over here, it says the general assumption is that older workers are paid more in spite of rather than because of their productivity. That might partly explain why when employees are under pressure to cut costs, they persuade a 55-year-old to take early retirement, take away seniority-based pay scale, and older workers may become a much more attractive employment proposition. But most employers and many workers are uncomfortable with the idea of reducing someone's pay in later life, although manual worker on piece rates often earn less as they get older. So retaining the services of older workers may mean employing them in different ways. Now, if you read over here, you will be able to see that it is talking about, like, let me show you. So if you read over here, you will be able to see that they're talking about the pay parity, the pay disparity. So what you need to do is every word has pay in it. So this is your keyword. First is to abolish. Abolish means that you do not give them any pay scheme. The next is avoiding pay. So you don't give them, you don't give them pay based on the piece rates. The next is increasing pay for the older workers, but we did not read it anywhere, so that's eliminated. And the next is equipping older workers with new skill. So now if you read over here, you will be able to find out the correct answers by just looking over here. The correct answer would be equipping older workers with new skills, because as they become older, they cannot be paid more. The only thing that they can be do is they can be taught to have new skills, and then after that you can definitely see that there are some options that you can eliminate. There is some options that you will have to really delve deep into, and that's how you basically find the options. So when we talk about multiple choice of questions, what are the things that you really need to do is always read the questions, because as I told you, if you read the question, you will have an idea what exactly needs to be done. The next is Skim through the passage. When you skim through the passage, you know what is there or what a kind of information is there in the passage. The next one is once you have skimmed through the passage, when you have marked the keywords, now you need to go back to the options and you have to locate the answers from the passage. If at all you find some information which you find is not at all related to what you have read, that means you need to eliminate that kind of information that is redundant. So half of the battle, again, half of the information that is not there or was not there in the passage, you can just eliminate it. Then whatever you are left with is what you need to find out the answers for. So what you need to do is once you have eliminated the rest of the options, you can always go back to the passage, see if there is any relevant information, and whatever comes close, that would be the answer. Now, when we talk about the reading section, see, it may become a little difficult to really find out the answers if you're not really prepared, if you don't really know what is a synonym, if you don't really know what are paraphrasing or how paraphrasing is done. It may become difficult if you can't really manage time. So if you give more than 20 minutes per passage, then yes, or per section, it will become difficult for you to understand or find out the correct answers. So what you need to do is, you need to be able to time yourself. So what you can do is, when you are doing a particular kind of passage, set the timer for 20 minutes, that after 20 minutes I'm going to move to the next passage. In this way, for after a prolonged period of practice, your mind will exactly know when the 20 minutes are going to be over, and also you will gain the insightful skills of reading quickly. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to practice more, because the more you practice, the better you come across, the better you get at reading at a particular speed. The next is always read the instruction, because when you read the instruction, you know exactly what needs to be done. And also do not go first for the passage and then you read the question. Always go the other way around. Read the question and then you read the passage. After that, what you need to do is use the keywords method, where you find out or where you try to draw conclusions or similarities in the passage. After that, if there is any information that you can eliminate, do that. Eliminate the incoherent information, and then whatever you are left with, you just need to decide which is going to be the correct answer. So this is how we try to find out the answers in the multiple choice of questions. Multiple choice of questions may feel very daunting, but if you practice enough, if you can tell the difference between a distractor, a piece of information which is very closely related to the correct answer but it isn't the correct answer, you will be able to find the answers pretty easily. The only problem is that we try to use our prior knowledge in such kinds of questions, which is not required. The next is, if we have not come across, or if we did not come across any kind of information which you was there in the question but you could not find it in the passage, you feel that now it's your motto of life to find that information. If you did not read it while reading the passage, the information is not there. It's a distractor. So always try to avoid such kind of situation. You can always move forward with the answer. The next is, if you get stuck somewhere, okay, if you get stuck somewhere and you feel that there is nothing that can be done now, there is no information that I don't really know how to figure out the answer, move on to the next section, because in this way you're going to be stuck at a question where you will not be able to find out the answer. It is going to confuse and enrage you even more, and to your chagrin you will not be able to again find out the answer. So it's better that you give yourself that break, you move to the next section and try to find out the different answers, because in that process you will invariably be able to find out the answer that you were looking out for. These are some tips for finding out the multiple choice of questions. Again, it may seem easy, but it requires practice. And as it is said that practice makes a man perfect, so the more you're going to practice from the actual authentic material, the easier it's going to become. It's going to become for you to find out the actual answers. And these are certain ways in which you will be able to find out the answers if you do the correct method, if you try the correct method. And if you're struggling really very much to find out the answer, what you can do is you can always come to us. We give you free training, we give you free demo class. One demo class is free. So if you're struggling anywhere in any kind of question, you can connect to us and we are going to help you out in your IELTS game. You can even book classes from us. We provide IELTS classes. So these are certain ways in which you can definitely help yourself. And With this, I finished the topic for today, which was multiple choice questions in the reading section. I hope it made sense. If you have any question, any doubt, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always reach out to us on our website, which is Worldex IELTS. And any query, any kind of questions that you have, it's all welcome. We are going to help you sort it out. Until then, I will see you in the next session. Thank you so much for joining and have a great day.